which I don't know actually what does it mean, affixation? I hadn't heard that term before.
I'm too sure. Do you know what? When it comes to naming tracks, and probably my artist name says it all. It's literally my initials.
Yeah.
When it comes to names, I am not the best person to advise on any circumstances.
And we're on. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Last Week Liquid podcast. Today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Chris, better known as CPH. Chris is a drum and bass producer and DJ with releases going back to 2015 on the likes of Focus, Lunar Records and Soul Deep. You can catch his latest release, Hidden Truth and Affixation, out now via Onward Music on all platforms. Chris, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me. No, I'm great. I'm pretty content with life at the moment and at peace with a few things. So yeah, definitely doing all right. Can't complain. So.
Cool, man. Yeah, you look good. You look very smiley, very happy. I know we spoke. If people haven't checked out the episode, we did a Headspace compilation special episode back in March or April of this year, and I had you on with Alpha Rhythm and Higher Than. And that was quite I don't know how much you remember from that chat. For me, it was quite a deep, impactful chat on me. The topics we touched and all of that. But you seem to, be doing great at the moment.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a different state of affairs. We touched a lot on mental health and the Headspace compilation. But no, definitely things are a lot different now, I'd say. I think it's been a funny year, not just for me, I think for everyone really, but just trying to live life to the full, if you like. As corny as it sounds, knuckling down, getting my head in things that I enjoy, with music or whatever it'll be. So I've got no complaints at all.
Yeah. Sometimes it's about riding those waves of hardships and just times that are like not as easy, and just kind of pushing through them, acknowledging them. And then, you come out the other side and life is beautiful.
Exactly. Absolutely. I've got no complaints whatsoever. I'm kind of at peace with quite a few things at the moment and pretty content. So I can't complain.
Yeah.
Not taking anything for granted.
Yeah.
Probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I definitely want to get maybe a bit later, a bit on mental health and different stuff like that, because I know we talked a bit by messages that like exercise, for example, is a super important part of your life, not just for physical health, but like mental health as well, and how that really helped you. So I'd love to chat more about that later. But I just want to talk about your latest release first, because it's a beautiful one. I love it, and it's also the first one on Onward Music, the new label. So tell me about how that came to be, how you came to be their first release and all of that.
Yeah, well, those two tracks probably been around a while. They were one of the tracks was due to be released possibly on another label. Nothing come to fruition. And again, I've been playing these quite regularly, whether it had been in mixes or sent out to other producers. And my good friend, J-Dubs, decided to start a label after much consideration. And he was really into the tracks. He always supported them, always played them on his show and bass drive. And he asked if he could possibly have them for the first release on the label. So really chuffed with that, to be fair, and to be part of the label. Not only that, but the first release as well. So he was really into the tracks and signed them up, and kind of went from there, really. So, but I think more so Hidden Truth as well. Definitely one of my favourite tracks that I've made. If I was to maybe put them into a pop, but I'm really happy with how that come out, and I'm glad it's got a home, and not only a home, from a good friend who started a great label, and hopefully there'll be more releases and more great releases after that. So
Did you just say that Hidden Truth was your favorite of the two?
So yeah, I love them both. I'm really happy with the outcome on both tracks. I think they've both got a bit of a meaning. I tend to do that on my tracks, whether it's a personal meaning or whatever it may be. But yeah, like I say, I'm a big fan of both tracks, but Hidden Truth's probably been around the longest.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I think the other one is really the standout, affixation, which I don't know actually what does it mean, affixation? I hadn't heard that term before.
I'm too sure. Do you know what? When it comes to naming tracks, and they're like, probably my artist name says it all. It's literally my initials.
Yeah.
When it comes to names, I am not the best person to advise them at any circumstances. So I go through a host of names, and I make a note on my phone of track titles, and and I kind of just sort of pick what I think might be best suited to that track.
Yeah.
That's what I tend to do. But a lot of the material, and including those two Onwards, I've had a lot of tracks sitting there for probably a year or two. A lot of this material that's come out earlier this year and due to come out later this year into next year is a lot of material that I've already made. So I'm kind of just sort of starting a clean slate, if you like.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely two tracks I'm really happy with.
Yeah. So does affixation mean anything, or is it like a word you came up with?
Yeah, just a word I thought sounded great, and
it does.
Thought it fit the title. There is unfortunately no deep, meaningful.
But
yeah.
I really enjoyed that one specifically. There's obviously all of your tracks are very, very melodic, very, very sad to some extent. I always feel like an undercurrent of sadness in your music. I don't know if that's intentional or not, or just me picking up on it. So it's always very melodic, liquid. But that one, affixation, has this kind of bass sound that comes in like not a horn, but like just a deeper sound that comes in. And I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Like I haven't heard that before. So I really enjoyed that one.
I do get that sometimes. I do like quite a lot of emotion in my tracks. Yeah. I do. And like I say, I can go back and forth to these tracks and work on them, or I can kind of get something together in a couple of sessions. But I do try and put a lot of emotion into it. And I know I say I like meaning in my tracks, which I do. And you asked me what's the track about, but some of my music I do make does have a personal meaning. So it's kind of what it just means to me. But it kind of outlays on other people as well. But it's funny as well because I love writing liquid drum and bass, but I never want to be one to be pigeonholed with just that genre. So I do have a lot of other material coming out that is a little bit hard-edged stuff. Nice. Again, we go by these subgenres, but I suppose it's all drum and bass at the end of the day. But I've got some sort of harder material coming out in the future, as well as the liquids music as well. So, but yeah, that's sort of kind of where I am with that at the moment. I like to experiment in different things as well.
Yeah.
And kind of just see how it comes out, really.
Yeah. Talking about the emotion in your music, it's like, as I mentioned, definitely something that comes across very clearly for me when I listen to your tunes. How do you, like, it's a hard question, but when there's no vocals, and because that's like a clear way to express meaning and emotion, how do you kind of convey emotion when you're writing music when there's like no vocals or anything? Like how does that process work?
Just sort of melodic layers, and it's kind of what I'm feeling as well. I think there are certain sounds that just prick the ears a little bit, and I kind of use that. And fixation is probably a good example, whereas I feel I can just sit there and listen to that track and just think about a host of things. And I think it's the same with, like, I could use some examples like LSB, About Tonight. And then if you just sit there, it kind of puts you in a little bit of a trance, and there's a lot of emotion in that track again, and you think of good or bad things or whatever it may be, and it's just trying to find that sound that relates to that. So when I'm putting something together like that, like you say, if it doesn't have a vocal in, then I kind of go through sounds or make sounds until something pricks the ear, and I think, okay, something there's an idea that I can kind of roll that out. That's kind of my process, if you like.
Yeah. So is that kind of your test, like once your sketch is finished or whatever, like to be able to listen to it and like, does it evoke something in you or not? And that's kind of your test.
I've put together a lot of ideas, and you can probably see from the releases I've had from 2015, I wouldn't say I've had an a lot of tunes in comparison to others, which is not a bad thing. And it's not a bad thing if you are making a lot of music, but I don't know, I'm very particular. Although I do have some friends that I'll write a track and I'll get shouted at to finish it off or do something, and I have had that quite recently with a few tracks, so I have gone back to them, but I seem to be very particular, and I do scrap a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Shouldn't, and again, it's something I get told off or by, but yeah, I have a habit sometimes as well where I'll start a track and I won't start another track until the existing one is finished. Something I've broken out to lately, but it's something that I used to do a lot of the time. I don't know why. For me, I see, and with the releases that I've got coming, once these tracks are found at home, and for me, in my head, I could start a clean slate and go again. So that's kind of my thinking process on it.
Yeah.
Works for some, doesn't work for others, but that's it really.
Do you think that's a good habit to have? Like, I don't have any preconceptions about it, but do you think that's a good habit to have, to like finish a track entirely before moving to something else?
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's the most healthiest. No. I've just actually went through some of my tracks that are unfinished last week, and again, I don't know if you do it as well, but you go through and you think, I didn't even know I had that track, or I didn't even know I did that idea, and it's something that you can get a hold of and do something with. But I go back and I find music there that I didn't think I wrote. So
it's very two different mindsets to like starting tracks and starting ideas versus actually finishing tracks and doing your mix downs and stuff. It's almost two different disciplines, and sometimes you'll be in the mindset of doing sketches and you'll do 10 sketches in a week, but it's just like a 8-bar loop or whatever. And then sometimes you have to put yourself in the other mindset, which I absolutely hate, which is to actually finish out the track and mix it down properly and stuff. And
that's it. So going back to finishing tracks, I should have elaborated a little bit. What I mean by that is I'll do everything up to the mix down stage. So I've got some releases coming up sort to the latter part of the year, and again, I need to do mix downs, pre-masters. So that's kind of the line I draw. But I do change my habits from time to time.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I can write music for a few months and then I'll have zero motivation or inspiration for another 2-3 months. And then I'll open the laptop up and I'll go again. And I think it's just how my moods are feeling at the time. I think if I'm feeling happy and good with stuff, then I'll kind of get stuck in. But if I'm feeling low or I've not really had the best of weeks, that'll be the last thing that'll be on my mind. I've learned never to force it.
Yeah.
And it seems to me a lot more producers are coming out and saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And because I think in those scenarios, you think to yourself, is it just me? Things like this, is it just me that, am I the issue? And it's not. So many other people that say exactly the same things.
Yeah.
That's something I've learned to adapt as well and never force anything.
Yeah. It's interesting that you write when you're in a like good and positive mood, because although I love your music, it doesn't always come across as happy music.
Yeah. No. I totally agree. Again, I don't know how it comes out like that. But yeah, no, I don't know what you say. It is funny as well because whether I do guest mix or I play out, which I haven't done for some time, but for various reasons, I'll tend to play quite a harder set. I play liquid music and I try to put a bit of everything in there, but it's quite funny. I've had it comment to me a few times. It's like, you play quite hard sets, but you make liquid music, so it's trying to put those two together. So I make a point of it, especially in guest mix. And perfect example, I've just done a guest mix for our good friend Alpha Rhythm.
Yeah.
And again, I've just put a bit of everything in there. Just put a bit, stuff that I'm feeling, and all sorts of styles and flavors. I don't want to just stick to one, so I'm trying to mix it up best I can. Just really give a true representation of myself, really.
Yeah.
Do what I'm happy with and play what I want to play.
Yeah.
Rather being restrained, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like listening to you feels like you have like zero pressure on like expectations of what you should be doing, or like you talked about not releasing that much, which is definitely true in your case compared to other producers or playing the music that you want. I know you're also not super into Instagram, for example, or social media, like promoting your stuff, and that feels like you're very like content in your own way of doing things.
I'd like to be. I really would like to be, especially with Instagram and Facebook. I do need to be a little bit active. I think that's another conversation as well. You do have to meet social media kings and queens these days. I really do think that. And that's not a bad thing. You want to be known. You want to get yourself out there. You want to promote yourself. Of course, that's the way to do it. But no, I think sometimes I'm a little bit up and down on that. It's maybe something I should be more on. But yeah, in comparison to others, I know exactly what you're saying. Exactly what you're saying. I go through spells and stages. It's a fun thing, but yeah, it's something I really do, because we're on actually this conversation about more artists and more so DJs and producers. I'm not saying producers as well, but it always seemed to way, I think, early on when this whole thing evolved, is if you're a good DJ, you've got a set and you played on a night, etc. And that not for everybody, but then it changed where you got recognition for your music production, which gained you sets and nights out. I feel it's going the other way again now. I'm not pinpointing names, but I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just people out there promoting themselves, making themselves known. It's just funny how things change and turn, really. Okay,
because I'm not in the DJ circuit at all. So you're saying that it's going back more towards not having to put out tracks and just being a DJ.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of DJs out there. I'm not saying that, say a lot. There are DJs out there that maybe have produced one or two tracks, or necessarily not, that are out playing week in, week out. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But it's just observations that you sit back and you flick through social media and you see, and I think it's sort of flipping its head, if you like. I'm not saying that it's like that all the time, and a lot of established acts out there that don't make much music, but it seems you can see people that are coming through and have been through the last couple of years, and from a production standpoint haven't done an awful lot maybe in comparison to others, and hats off. I think playing week in, week out.
I think that's what makes most sense. Like I never really understood the fact that you had to produce a lot of tracks to be able to play out, because it's two different skill sets entirely in two different disciplines almost. And so for me, if you just want to be a DJ and be a great DJ, that should be enough to play your nights. You shouldn't have to be producing.
Totally agree. No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I do agree with you in that sense. It's just, I think we sit back from time to time and we observe, and you kind of see how things are and how things are going. And it's just, again, again, just one of the things that you see that we point out, which again is not a bad thing. But you saying about DJing, I was the same. I started mixing when I'm 34 now. I started mixing when I was 13, and I mixed. Tried, hardcore, which then took a swift turn to old school hip hop, very different to the other. But again, straight after I was introduced to drum and bass, and I just DJ'd for quite a long time before I even sat down at a computer and made anything. So I definitely see your point there.
Yeah. Let's get into that, because as you mentioned, like, you've been DJing for a long time before actually producing. So I'm really curious in your, kind of upbringing, what drew you to DJing in the first place. 13 is quite early. So how did you get introduced? How did you get hooked into DJing?
Just through being around friends, really. I say this to my friend all the time, that if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, DJing and making music. And he kind of throws it off and says, "No, don't be silly," which, I'm not to say that I wouldn't have discovered it eventually, but I remember going around to his friend's house at a young age, even younger than 13, and just walking into his spare room and in him having this extensive vinyl collection, just drum and bass classics and all sorts of stuff in there, and Technics turntables and these big monitors, and just the sound of it. I hadn't heard anything like that before, and just the sound that was coming through these speakers, and you just get memorized by it, I think. And it's opens your eyes. You think, I didn't even think this existed, or this is something I'd really love to try. And you always remember going around to your friends for the first time and putting that needle on the vinyl, and with your hands shaking that no one's going to watch, or you're not going to screw up, or whatever it may be. And our friendship just blossomed from there on. We were friends anyway, but it kind of just blossomed from then on. And I got my first pair of turntables, 13, experimented with a few genres, like I just said, and it was sort of straight into drum and bass. But I was fortunate to have quite a lot of friends around the area I'm from, and they run local drum and bass nights in Shrewsbury, which is in West Midlands, and they used to get acts coming down, and we used to support them or play on the same lineup as those. And that was a span of a good 10, 12 years, something like that, if not more. And some promoters come, some promoters go, and new ones come in. But it was great, to be friends with those people putting on those nights and get a chance to play out in front of a crowd. And it was just no better feeling, and this ranged from, a very small room to maybe a club dance floor, if you like. And it was great. It was a really good experience, and to experience that, when I was old enough to go out, the sort of 17, 18, 19, whatever, it just stemmed from there, and it was great. We had some really good times. I think more so the fact that I was involved in doing that with my good friends made it even better.
Yeah.
So
was drum and bass kind of your first love in terms of DJing? And
no, I'd say I experimented. I was in kind of for the happy hardcore. I was into that maybe sort of beginning of secondary school. It was stronger at that point. It's again something that I don't know where it is at the moment, but we kind of would play around with that. I actually remember doing a mixtape for a pirate radio station at about 13, 14. And it was absolutely awful. It was horrendous. I think back now, and I think the guy that must have listened to that, what he thought playing that tape, if he did even play it anyway.
Did he play it? Or?
Pardon?
Did he actually play your mixtape when you sent it?
No.
Ah,
it was to try and get a set on that particular station. But that's probably a memory I should forget. But sort of around about 17, 18, 19, again, had friends that did that kind of thing and played on those radio stations. And it was great. Again, it just sort of coincided with the nights out that we used to do, and it was really good. It was really good.
Yeah.
So no complaints there. I think, as well as that, locally in we had a few record shops as well. So it was always good to meet friends and socialise and network and meet other DJs and that sort of thing. And for years and years, it used to be a habit that I'd wake up on a Saturday morning after a week's work and I'd be straight into the record shops collecting my white labels for that week. It was addictive. It was something that I was obsessed with. And again, I did that for many, many years and built up a great drum and bass vinyl collection before I regrettably sold everything about 10 years ago. So
why'd you do that?
Do you know what? I say regrettably. I did maybe have a pile of vinyl that I think I should have kept. It was very rare, very hard to get hold of. But I think everything with the digital era and what's available to you now, in my head, I was just more sort of going in that direction, if you like. So that's what I did after. But again, I don't regret the years of vinyl collecting and going in and picking up the white labels and promos or whatever. And it was a period I really enjoyed for a long time. But things change, and I'm probably not the only one that's come to that decision.
Yeah. If they're just picking up dust, then it's
yeah, and that was the case. I remember I went through a few pairs of Technics turntables, and I think even my last pair, unfortunately sat there and gathered dust before I sold them. But I know times change, and you need a little bit of money at the time, or whatever it may be, and whatever the circumstances were, that's kind of what happened. So
do you still feel like nostalgic thinking back about that period compared to like logging into Beatport now and clicking to buy tunes?
No, it's not enjoyable at all. I actually, you say that, I went, I think I purchased some music a couple of weeks back for the first time in 3, 4, 5 months, just tracks sitting in my wish list from beginning of the year. But yeah, I don't think it's half as good as going in and putting your hands on something and playing something. And there's so much music to go through now.
Yeah,
there's so much out there, and it's just sort of trying to trawl through and see what you're into. Don't dislike it, but it's if you're comparing it to going out and buying a vinyl release, it's not half as good in my opinion.
Yeah, there's something that's like, not wanting to sound like an old fart or anything, but definitely something's being lost with everything becoming digital, and it's a eternal conversation, and like there's no way of going back either. But I feel like newer generations now, like younger generations, won't really ever experience that. Like when I used to come home from school or whatever, and I'd go through my like CD collection and kind of look at what I wanted to listen. And then I'd say, oh yeah, that Blink album, and I'd pull it out, pop it in and listen to it. And there's something very special about like actually physically going through your collection,
I totally agree. And I think even as an artist, whether you produce an album and you get that released, I think getting that released on a vinyl or a CD, there's something to touch at the end of it. It's whereas digital round that are in, it's there, but it's not probably as meaningful as you having something in your hand. And I think the only benefit from it now is where you can go through a release. And I used to remember going in and listening to an EP and me liking one of the tracks out of the 4 on the EP and deciding, right, am I going to spend 12, 14 pounds on this on this vinyl for that track, or I'm just going to leave it? But 9 out of 10 times I would pick it up and take it. Whereas now you can cherry pick the tracks you like on an EP or an album, whatever it may be. But it's not to say I do that. Again, I end up buying all of it. But it has its good and bad, but
Yeah. And to play devil's advocate, like there's no way I would be discovering this much music if it weren't for Spotify and all of that. Like there's no way I would be hearing about these new artists and discovering new types of music if it wasn't for Spotify. So I can sit there and talk about CDs all day long, but there's things I love about Spotify as well.
Yeah, and again, you touching on listening to new music, whether it's drum and bass or not, something completely different. It's one thing, a friend pointed out that when you're making drum and bass music, don't listen to drum and bass music. And I find that I'm listening to it less and less, and I totally agree with it. I do think it's a lot better and beneficial for whatever reasons may be, but that's all I would listen to at times is drum and bass constantly around the clock. And then I go to make it, then you end up trying to mimic someone or another track that you liked or whatever it may be. Not to say it's a bad thing, but something I try and step away from now is not listening to drum and bass when I'm making drum and bass. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's something Zero T talked about when he came on the podcast. That, like he told me he never listens to drum and bass. Like he listened to promos and stuff, obviously when he needs to play out DJ sets and whatever. But when it's just him at home or whatever, he never listens to drum and bass.
I try again trying to whittle things down and not doing it very often. As again you say with the promos, try and do that on a monthly basis if I can, and just minimize it a little bit, really.
Yeah. Just going back to your DJing story, and so you said you were like doing happy hardcore, and I think you did hip hop as well.
Yeah.
Do you kind of remember the time where you actually heard drum and bass for the first time, or the moment where you kind of thought, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on, this is where I want to spend my time?
I always remember going into a record shop. I must have been back end of primary school. This was 90s, I reckon, about 97, 98, something like that. Very young, 10, 11, 12, whatever it may have been. And tape packs was quite an obsession then. And I always remember seeing the drum and bass tape packs, but not really knowing what it was. I tend to go for a different genre, whether it be hardcore, whatever it may be. But so I knew it was about then, but until close friends of mine played it, and I'd gone around and witnessed them, mixing this sort of music, then that's kind of when I first heard it for the first time, if you like. So I was wary of it from walking into record shops, but yeah, just through friends playing it.
Yeah,
I think the more they play it, the more your ears pricking. You think, oh, I like that. I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
and you can imagine sort of that era late, VV was a big thing then. Full Cycle, the early Ram stuff, and True Players was what it was then, and that kind of stuff. And there was such an array of different styles. That's what was good about it. And I think from then on, and even when I started buying, I think I backtracked a little bit. And it's like, okay, I'm kind of trying to keep up with what's out to the day. Let's dig deeper and go back and, more like the classics, find some older stuff, and that, I'd be into, and that's what I did, really.
Yeah.
And the likes of Discogs and, eBay are there, and our weekly wages disappear and evaporate because we just want to buy things we can't afford. But that's what it was for me.
Yeah,
it was, like I say to you before, it was a brilliant period. It was a great period.
Yeah.
And even when I first started producing, again, I didn't really have a set idea of what sort of style of music I was going to make. Or it was just, let's lay out and see what happens.
So when did that time kind of come around? Because obviously you were mixing for a long time and only later on decided to jump into making music.
Again, just surrounding himself with the right friends. Met some friends that had been producing for quite some time, very talented. And I think they were running, like, I don't know if you remember the old G5 Mac towers that they used to have, Apple towers, and they'd have like Logic and a few other bits on there. And they kind of directed me to, you know, this is what you need if you want to get started, and we'll kind of help you out. And that's what I did. I invested in a computer and bits of software, and early stages, sat down with them, and as you know now, I'm still learning, and
now you've mastered it all.
I wish. Still trying to learn it now, but it was that took some time. That took some time just to even pick up the basics. I think at one point I thought to myself, you know, can I do this? But it seemed to pay off okay, I suppose. But
definitely.
Yeah. Again, this is just through connection with friends. It's nothing out of the ordinary. Again, I suppose you can compare it to the time where I walked around and first time for friends, and I walked into the studio and he's having a mix with all his vinyl, and it was again the same in this instance. They're sitting down at the computers making all sorts of sounds, and just kind of thrown back by it, thinking, right, I want to try this now.
Yeah, it seems like your connections with like friends and all of that is super important in your life, in terms like your musical life also, because I've never really had that. I mean, obviously I had friends and we discovered music together, but once I decided to actually produce music or learn to DJ, I didn't have friends around me who actually did that. So it was very much a YouTube experience, you know? So yeah, it's like how important was it for you to, I know you're good mates with like Phil Tangent as well, for example. How important is it to have those people around you in your life to kind of help you out and all that?
Oh, it's huge. You know, me and Phil first met, we really hit it off. You know, we've known each other just over 10, 11 years now. We've always stayed in touch, and yeah, even what he's doing, again, it opens another door, and you kind of see the stuff that he's making and the people he's working with, and more than anything, even, you know, talk about Phil and Jack J-Dubs, absolutely brilliant, you know, so honest, you know, great constructive criticism, you know, only want to help you push forward. And it's great to have that circle of friends around you, you know, and I'd rather that 10 times over to somebody saying, oh yeah, that sounds great, when in fact it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, brutally honest, want to support you to the max, and you know, get you aiming high. Yeah, it's been massive help, absolutely massive help. You know, with Phil doing Luna Records and Jay doing Onward, you know, it's great that I can make some music, and depending on if they're feeling it or not, you know, I've got an outlet to have a release on one of the two labels, and work with you good friends. You know, you can't ask for better than that. And you know, both very intelligent people when it comes to that sort of thing. They know what they like, they know what they don't like, and you know, they work hard at what they do. So big, yeah, it's been an extremely good thing to sort of have them, if you like.
Yeah, I do remember Phil when I had him on the show saying that he tends to be brutally honest with feedback, and it's just the way he used to get feedback as well back in the days, and it's he feels it's the best way for people to improve is just being brutally honest.
Yeah, it is about, because if you're not going to tell the truth to somebody and be honest about how their track sounds, then how are you going to improve? You're not, because if everyone's turning around to you and they don't want to hurt your feelings, or you know, don't want to think that they don't care, and just say, yeah, sounding great, you're not going to improve. You need to know these things. You need to know the truth. And I think early on, you did take it to heart a little bit. I think that goes for everybody, but you get used to it because you only want to improve. They're only helping you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it still frustrates me, and I've seen it, whether it's been through friends that have sent other friends music, and people get their back up because someone's given some feedback they don't necessarily like.
Yeah.
It's the only way you're going to get better.
Yeah.
So,
it's like, are you looking for validation, or are you looking for feedback? Because those are like two very different things. And
yeah.
if you're looking for validation, you can send your tracks to your mom and she'll say, oh yeah, it's great. If you want actual feedback, then call up Phil. Or
Exactly. And it's quite surprising that a lot of people that still, I say a lot of people exaggerate, I've heard all sorts of stories of people not liking what their or feedback they're being told, but I think it's just improving yourself, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think you can surround yourself with those sort of people. It helps massively. It does help massively.
Yeah. Well, it's always a tricky one as well, because when it comes to art, to some extent, you always try to put in a bit of yourself in it and your emotions and things like that.
Yeah.
So when you get brutal feedback on a track where you were like really feeling it and being very emotionally connected to it, that's like a
I think you got to draw a line as well on that. So, I like to make music for myself, and if I like it irrelevant what any other one or any other people think. It's a bonus if you put it out there and people like it and buy it, of course, but you want to make music that you like as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Talk about tracks. There's one track I do want to talk to you about. Always You, which was your track on the Headspace compilation.
Yeah.
I still listen to it to this day. I love that track. It's again, evokes a lot of emotions in me when I listen to it.
Yeah.
Kind of a lot of sadness and different emotions. But I love listening to it. Do you remember how much you remember like writing it, putting it together, what it meant to you?
That was quite scattered around. It was part of a recent track I made, but the sessions was quite scattered, and it was one of those that I went to and back from. And again, I was trying to find something with a bit of emotion in, but kind of a little bit of a raw edge to it. But yeah, again, another personal one for me. A track that again I was happy with the outcome of. But again, just trying something a little bit different as well. You could say that maybe necessarily won't choose those drums to go with musical elements of the track, and I'm just playing around, see what kind of fits. But I was happy with the outcome, and again, that was one I went to and back from quite a lot, just to try and get it right, really.
Yeah. It's funny because often people say like their best tracks come out very quickly, like in half an hour or 1 hour, like the basic idea is all there, and that's usually how the best songs come about. And then I listen to this one, it feels like it was like a lot more work. And for me, it's my favorite of yours. So it's interesting how that works.
Yeah, and you say that, it's quite funny because I visited Phil earlier on in the year. We actually wrote 2 tracks in 2 days, which something we both never do. But I think because of the preparation and samples that we kind of had, we were ready to go, if you like. But it's funny because tracks do tend to take me a little bit longer. But in this instance, and maybe a couple other instances I've had, they have come together quite quickly. And equally, the quality's been there, maybe in comparison to other tracks. And again, those 2 tracks in question that I talk about, and they will be coming out in the near future. So I always thought sometimes if I made a track quite quickly, I question myself, especially the earlier days. Am I being creative enough? Am I doing enough? Am I cheating here? Well, in fact, I wasn't. But
is this too easy, basically?
Yeah, you question yourself a little bit, thinking, have I put enough effort in here? And you ask yourself all those things. And I used to think like that I like that a lot, and I think that's probably one of the reasons, especially early on, why I didn't like so much music, just from sort of the technical aspect of it. I didn't think that I was right. Am I doing enough here? There's something else I can work on or make it sound better? And all I was doing was overthinking it.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that really kind of not put a spanner in the works, but I think made things a lot more slower than they should have been. So
yeah, it's all a learning process, because when you get started, it's like, am I using too many samples? Am I using too many presets? Should I be tweaking more? Whatever. And then as you grow as an artist, as you evolve, you start feeling more comfortable about, okay, if this sounds right, that's enough.
Yeah, it took me a while to get there. Like I say, it did stop me in my tracks a little bit. We're all different as producers. There's a lot of technical producers out there, and you think to yourself, you're doing enough. But I got to the point where I was like, no, okay, this is done. I'm happy with this. No point adding to it. Kind of very cutthroat, black and white. No, that's finished with. But again, it took a long time to get to that. I'll say long time, because I've only been releasing 6 years, probably been producing a little bit longer, but yeah, it took a while to overcome and just be straight to the point. And that's the thing, making music should be enjoyable, it should be fun, you shouldn't feel like you have to be pressured or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I've had the moments where I'm right, pull that aside. When I'm feeling inspired and motivated, I'll pick it up and we'll go again and enjoy it, because it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun. You shouldn't have to overthink things, and I think you're doing enough. You just got to go with it, and if it sounds right, and you like the vibe and you're enjoying it, that's what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely something that can get lost when you're producing and you're in your DAW and you feel like you need to finish IDs and you need to send it out to labels and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, it's been 3 months since I haven't had a release or whatever, and you feel that pressure, and it's like, dude, this is, for most of us, this isn't our job. We're barely making any money out of this. So if on top of that you're not having fun, like, what's the point?
Exactly. And you mentioned about sending your music out to labels. Again, that in itself, if you haven't done that before, it's a learning curve. And you can send music to labels and you can sort of talk to them, or you can send something and they'll want something straight away and come back to you straight away, or you send music and you won't hear anything for months, and that's just the way it goes, really. I think you just got to try not to put all your eggs in one basket. It's definitely been a learning curve for me in some scenarios, but I think you just got to take things with a pinch of salt. But it's good to build up connections and friendships with people, and set yourself goals, maybe labels you want to release on, or whatever it will be, and just work to that. But definitely learn not to put all my eggs in one basket and hold out for maybe one particular opportunity or one particular label. It doesn't always come. I think if someone is definitely into music and wants something, they'll tell you. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, dude, I love your like outlook and your tone and your vibe. Like, it's super positive and all. And obviously last time we spoke, it was a different context because of Headspace compilation. We were talking a lot more about mental health and personal struggles and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm just curious kind of what the last few months looked like for you. What does your like kind of daily routine look like? What do you have in place to just stay healthy mentally, physically, all of that? Because you seem in a very good spot at the moment.
Yeah, things are definitely a lot better when we last spoke, and I'm not going to hide behind the fact that it wasn't, because I think this sort of stuff's important to just put it out as it is, because I'm not the only one, and I think other people like to hear it too. But I'm definitely in a better spot now. This year's been very funny in terms of so much stuff has happened. I'm in such a transition with things at the moment, with work, accommodation, whatever it may be. A lot of things have changed, and I think more than anything, I've put a lot more time and energy into myself rather than wasting it maybe on other individuals, and just focused on sort of what I want to do with myself and where I want to be, and doing things that I enjoy. Whether we spoke, as you know, I'm a bit of a fitness sort of freak. I enjoy the gym. I enjoy that sort of stuff. It's mentally stimulating as well as physically, and getting my head in the music, trying to make plans going forward with things, trying to write new material. I'm trying to see things more in a positive outlook, and just getting to where I need to be, really. And more than anything, surround myself with the right people. Not letting someone bring you down, negativity that goes on. Just trying to put myself in a better spot and a better circle, and just trying to think forward, really, and think now, in a nutshell. But yeah, I can't complain. I think you just got to be grateful, really, for what's in front of you at times. I know it sounds corny and silly, but it is true. It is true.
Yeah.
I'm a massive overthinker. And something I'm trying not, to do less of. But we all go through the anxieties of life and whatever else it may be. But yeah, I'm just stripping things back and just focusing a little bit more, really.
Yeah, I love that. Tell me a bit more about your exercising routine and stuff, and what it kind of brings to you, what you do, and all of that.
Well, fortunately, my parents have got actually built a gym out back, so I use that. My father's invested heavily in there and brought an awful lot of equipment. And bless him, he's still going at 66. So
nice.
maybe need to follow suit and try and keep up with him. But yeah, my setup. It's just I work out sort of about 4 times a week. It's mainly weight based. I'm quite a sort of a slim, lean guy anyway. But 4 or 5 years ago, I was non-existent. I was doing absolutely nothing to me. So I've kind of I've kind of just built myself up through that.
Yeah,
eating well or eating a lot, and for me, it's the number one thing for your state of mind, just physically. Some days I don't want to do it. I feel great after doing it. I really do enjoy it. So I do a lot of weights there, and I do a lot more walking than I used to. I find that helps massively as well. And not just that, I find some days if I'm sitting and doing nothing, not saying doing nothing, but if I'm not moving my body around, I feel rough for it.
Yeah,
so I've got to be moving. Always got to be doing something, whether it's a walk or whatever it may be. And that's kind of a daily setup for me. Just get a workout in, try and go for a walk, and be a bit productive, whether it's admin related or whatever it may be. But like I said, I'm in a transition at the moment, just trying to figure out a few things. But it definitely helps. Those things definitely helps.
Dude, morning walks have been a game changer for me. Over the last 2 months, I started actually going on for 20 minutes or half an hour in the morning. First thing, I'll wake up, go and take my shower and then walk out directly. Because I used to get stuck into my phone or music or the podcast or whatever first thing in the morning. And actually starting your day by going outside, getting some fresh air, and not even listening to a podcast or nothing, just go out with nothing at all and just kind of walk and look at the nature around you and look at people and hear things that are happening, for me, it's been kind of allows your brain to, I don't know, kind of reset and think about things. Whereas if you're always busy doing something or listening to a podcast or whatever, then you never give your brain a break to just think about stuff.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And again, I think it's just little habits that I've tried to pick up that have been beneficial. Even getting up earlier in the morning. I'm quite an early bird anyway, but just trying to get my body clock into a bit of a routine. Getting up a little bit earlier as well. I find that helps.
Yeah.
And just sort of taking on board other little things really. But if I do something and I feel good from it, I'm going to try and continue to do it. As at times before, you don't want to do something, but like I said, just going into the gym for 40 minutes, you don't want to do it necessarily every day. You're going to feel better after doing it. So
yeah. And sometimes it's not even about like the actual exercise or the number of reps you'll do, but just the fact of going and just building that habit, even if you're staying maybe 20 minutes because you're feeling awful that day or whatever, you still went there, like you still put in the effort and went there. And that's always like a huge win mentally.
Yeah. And again, something's better than nothing. Like you said, even if you come away after 20 minutes, it's better than nothing. You've done something. I think that's an achievement in itself. I think a lot of people, and even me, sorry, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Being told I put too much pressure on myself, and I do at times. I do. I think when I like to say I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and sometimes it doesn't go the way you want to, whatever that may be. I think it's just trying not to put too much pressure. Just have a go at something, give it a go. Better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great note to leave it on. Really, really enjoyed this chat, man. Very positive vibes, just the way I wanted to start my weekend. So love this chat. Before we shut off, maybe let people know any project you have upcoming that you want to disclose. Where can people check out your music, all of that stuff?
Yeah, I'm working with Jay. We've got a few collabs that we're working on at the moment, which we've got a home for in a couple of projects, but we'll kind of get our head down and working in that. Also been working with Phil as well. We've got something we've been working on for Luna, and a couple of other bits up in the air, but we've also been working together on a couple of other tracks that we're doing for a label called Influence Records. And I've been experimenting around with sort of harder sounds, and I've got a few harder bits coming up on like a various artists album. Again, that's coming on Influence, which looks absolutely great. And there's just a few other little bits. There's some 4 seasons doing I think a 10-year compilation. So we're doing something for them as well, among a few other tracks here and there. So just
is that the YouTube channel? 4 season. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'd say there's a few other little bits, and hopefully we'll work with Jay in the future for his Onward label. That's looking really promising as well. And yeah, that's really it for me at the moment. But I've got enough to sort of get my teeth into, and I think then it's going to be a clean slate, and we're going to try and push out some new fresh material if I can. So another guest mix as well coming up in the coming weeks as well, which I'll put that on my socials anyway. So yeah, trying to keep moving forward, but there's lots to be excited about. So just trying to think positive about it all.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, man, it's been a pleasure, and really looking forward to those harder bits. I'm really curious what you're going to bring with those, so I'll be keeping my eyes wide open for those when they come out. But in the meantime, all the best, and we'll be in touch anyway. So cheers, man.
Thank you very much.